Hello, I wanted to make a video to better explain myself and so you can put a face to my email. I do have a couple of points here that I want to get to so that you can better understand my story and so that I can make the points that I want to make. PHP is a multi-level marketing firm that targets minorities that have no idea what they're getting into, along with just people who are ignorant to what a multi-level marketing company is. Essentially, PHP uses people's family members and friends as new leads. Their business should not exist. It causes more harm to people than helps. The people who gain anything are the people who are above everyone. The marketing directors, the producers that have the most experience, and even they are not making the numbers that they claim to make. You can tell that at times they get desperate and will be willing to step on anyone to get to their family and friends to sell them on the dream or to sell them insurance. I do want to talk about my initial recruitment. It happened back in 2020 when I could not bartend, which has become my career at this point. I've been bartending since I was 21. I'm 28. During COVID, I was working for the Census Bureau. I was going door to door in my neighborhood, gaining information, and that's how I met my neighbor. She introduced me to the business opportunity. I found it super appealing at the time because I was very gullible and unaware of what I was getting into, and I needed money. The census was something temporary, and it was a desperate time for me as well as the rest of the world. She targeted me. Once I sat down with her and her upline, they started to sell me on the dream, and when I did not want to continue, they began to ask me personal questions. Based on my answers, they used what I was saying to motivate me to get to join, to become better at providing for myself, and to create a better future for myself and my family. I shared with them that my mother passed away from breast cancer when I was 16, and they would tell me, do it for her. I shared with them my financial struggles. They made the business seem as if it was really doable and easy and proven to be true. I paid $200 to join. They said that it was used to gain access to their database, which is called Bamboo, to assist me with structuring my book of business once I started to sell life insurance. I was then asked to take a test to become a licensed broker or producer, and I did, and I paid for it. Then after that, I began to go to these meetings that were held 3 times a week that lasted hours on end, sometimes 4 hours, sometimes more. And in this room, they gather dozens of people who are experienced in the business already and people who have no idea what they're getting into as new recruits. They sell you on the dream that you're going to make a lot of money. They essentially pressure people to join. Sadly, a lot of people end up joining. They do have a policy that after 2 days you can get your money back, but by the time that day expires, people already have bought into the idea and then they fall off a week later, and the business keeps those $200. If you stay and you continue to go to these meetings, you continue to get fed a whole bunch of lies and ways to manipulate you and other people to get to join. Their focus on recruitment was extremely heavy, not at all aimed to selling life insurance to anyone. I would bring in people, be super excited about it because the person actually wanted to buy life insurance. Instead of selling them the life insurance, they would sell them on the dream and try to get them to recruit, and the person would get turned off and walk away. I would miss out on that sale or miss out on that opportunity to learn how to sell and help them fill out the application. That happened numerous of times. Also, when I would bring in my family and friends, they refused to let me talk to them and sell them the products because they were, again, trying to focus on recruiting all of my family, all of my friends, instead of selling them the life insurance. So already from looking back, this multi-level marketing company continues to strive because it uses new recruits' warm leads, which is their family and friends, to continue to sell and to recruit. It has no intention of helping you grow your business and all the intention to waste your time. I remember going to these meetings, them telling us that we had to go to these conventions. We had to pay for the ticket, which was another $200, flights to get there, hotel stays, time off work, expenses to feed yourself while you're out there. They even promoted you buying packages to bring people to sell them on the dream as well, which I did not do. I couldn't afford it. There are people who did and put it all on the line to help their business grow. A lot of expenses that were never reimbursed, a lot of lost time and money. The office space, which I got, was constantly pushed on everyone. New recruits, the people that had been there for a while had already had offices, but the new recruits were heavily pressured to get an office because they said if you get an office, then you will become more motivated to make sales and to bring in recruits. I, at the time, was very naively motivated, just feeding into all of this. They encouraged me to get an office space with another new agent, knowing that it was well above my means and I was not financially ready. They do this on purpose to new recruits so that they can keep their office running, so they can keep this place running to continue to sell these lies to people who are naive and just ignorant on what is going on. The pressure was so high that after months of not making money, they tell you it's because you're not bringing enough recruits. In order to raise your commission from 30%, which is what they initially start you off with, you have to bring in more recruits to bring in under you and raise your percentage. They would have these opportunities to where if you brought in 3 people within the next couple of hours, your percentage will go up. I was paying for my family and friends to join without them even physically being there, just trying to help me build my business and just supporting me and me paying from my own pocket. And they knew this and they let me and they pressured me along with all of the other new agents to do so. They eventually told me that I'm letting my work get in between me and my business, my book of business, and so I reduced my hours. I eventually quit my job because they said I'm forever gonna be in the rat race, working a job and making money or helping somebody else build their business when I can be building mine. They repeatedly told me the same things along with a lot of dozens of other people 3 times a week for hours on end, so that we can continue with this idea that if you tried hard enough, if you put some skin in the game, that you would be able to succeed. At the beginning, when I first joined, I had a good amount saved in my savings account. I think I remember having $11,000. I joined back in 2020, November of 2020, but I did fall out, went back to bartending, and then came back to talk to her because I just came back to the idea that if I try again, it could work for me this time. So I rejoined May of 2022. At that time, when I had stepped away from them and went back to working, when I had saved $11,000, but I had hurt myself at work. I have nerve damage on my wrist. So I was trying to again get out of bartending and go into something that was more promising for the future. I came back with $11,000. By the time it was August of 2022, going into September, I had ran through all my savings to pay for the trips, to pay for the recruits, to pay for my office space, to pay my rent, to pay my bills, while I was making nothing, just wasting my time. I did submit 19 policies, but out of the 19 policies, the only people that stuck to their policy and kept their life insurance policy were those closest to me, because they're easier to get to and to pressure them into helping me with my book of business. This approach prevented me from growing my business through legitimate leads. They made me false promises and misled me for months. They did not train me. Like I said, I would bring in leads. They would just brush it off and try to recruit them, and did not even think to sell them a policy and train me on how to do it on my own. I remember in the meetings, there were even people that were in college that were saying, like, I can't go to this convention because I have my exams coming up, and they would tell them, you need to prioritize this over school, because don't you want to be able to pay for your school? It was ridiculous, all the things that they would feed us. And these were young people they were talking to, 18, 19 years old. I think you have to be 21 to become a producer. Well, either way, even if they were younger, they would tell them, hey, well, when you're of age, come back. We'll have open doors for you for this opportunity. It sickens me. The emotional and financial strain I endured was immense. I was left with no real business results and drained of my resources. I do also want to state that I went on the Illinois securityofstate.gov, and I read the violation of Illinois Business Opportunities Law. And according to the Illinois Business Opportunity Sales Law, any business opportunity involving a payment of more than $500, which I went well over, within 6 months must be registered with the state, and the seller must provide a disclosure agreement at least 14 days before signing any contract. PHP never provided me with this required disclosure agreement, violating Illinois law. This document would have shown me the real risks and average earnings, and if I had seen the real numbers, I would have never agreed to join. They didn't show me that the vast majority of agents were losing money. PHP targets vulnerable individuals. They target minorities, immigrants with limited English proficiency, and people with little or no business knowledge, such as myself. I remember vividly how they would recruit without allowing too many questions at the first meeting, always pushing to meet in person or set up video calls to sell the dream. It is now 2024, years after my initial encounter with my neighbor and PHP agency in general. I am still under financial hardship and emotional toll. In August 2022, going into September, that's when I ran out of my savings and I went back to work like a normal person and bartending. I stopped going to the meetings, and slowly I realized that I had been scammed out of my time, my effort, and my money. I went into a very deep depression. It was like a shock, like a revelation, like if I had been pulled out of becoming brainwashed into believing these things. I became very depressed, suicidal, to the point where I was admitted to a psych ward by my own family because they couldn't keep watch over me 24/7 to make sure I didn't injure myself. I want to be compensated for all of my wasted time, my money, and my effort, the emotional, mental toll that it took on me. I believe that this business should not exist. They are criminals and they are scamming people out of their valuable time. I do not want this to continue to happen to other people like me. I'm willing to fight as much as I have to get that point across and to stop them from continuing this malpractice. I can honestly say if I had never met my neighbor, I would be in a way better financial position than I am now. I've always been a saver. I always had the intention to invest my money in something. I just fell into the wrong hands. Thank you.